Hi, I'm Alex Howard, and welcome to Conscious 2. My guest in the studio today is Ryan Spielman. Hi, Ryan. And Ryan is a yoga teacher in the Ashtanga Vinyasa tradition. He teaches yoga all around London and also runs teacher training programs for aspiring teachers in the Ashtanga tradition. I should say Ryan is also my teacher of a number of years. And in today's interview, we're going to be exploring Ryan's own journey with yoga, so how he came to the system, how it's affected his own life. But also touch on at the end, we're developing a show for Ryan within Conscious 2, where you can also learn some of the practices for yourself at home as well. So Ryan, maybe as a starting point, your journey with yoga, where did it start?
I took my first yoga class when I was young. I was about 20 years old, and I knew instantly in that class I wanted to be a yoga teacher. It felt right, and it felt like I'd been doing this before, and I immersed myself in it immediately and consumed as much information as I could, and I quickly became a yoga teacher. I don't recommend this, but I started teaching a few months after I took my first yoga class.
Okay.
Only because I didn't really have a teacher,
Yeah.
and no one told me that I couldn't.
Okay.
And I loved it so much, and it just felt like the right thing for me to do and what I wanted to do.
Yeah, and say more about what happened in that class. Like you, just instantaneously, love at first sight.
Yeah, there was something about the combination of moving my body and I have a yoga body. I was born with this sort of flexible body, so I finally found the thing that the program that fit my body type, and then it was the combination of the including my body with meditative focus and the whole culture of yoga that was very attractive to me at the time.
And was it specifically the physical aspects of yoga to start with, or was there also this kind of spiritual elements that were important at that point as well for you?
No, I'd already found my spiritual path before I took my first yoga class, so I was on the path already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we take a step back before that? This is all kind of quite young to be on a spiritual path, a yoga path. Do you know what catalyzed the kind of broader interest in that for you?
Well, I made a big life decision and left university after a year and a half. I was not happy, and I decided to go traveling around the world. On my travels, I met someone who inspired me. He was a mentor, and he turned me on to spirituality, and I started reading and meditating, and maybe a year later, I took my first yoga class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So there you are in your early 20s, you're a yoga teacher. How did things develop from there? People just sought you out for, I guess you were in Miami at this time?
I was in Miami, my hometown, and I started teaching at local gyms and things like that, and people were asking me for private classes, and then it started to. I think I took to yoga I had an intuition for the practice, so a good sense of how to do it, and I was watching everybody's video and reading everybody's book, so I assimilated the information very quickly.
Yes.
And soon I started teaching in some yoga studios and covering people's classes, and that's how it happens for most people now.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate. Just a short time after I started teaching, a yoga teacher friend of mine who had his own studio, he left to go to Mysore, India, to study with Pattabhi Jois, and he gave me his yoga studio to run.
As you do.
and so all of a sudden I had my own yoga studio.
Wow.
And it was great. It was a great learning experience. I was teaching all the classes, and I got to figure things out. I like figuring things out on my own. I've never really had a yoga teacher, an Ashtanga teacher, who I consider my teacher. I like to learn it on my own. I have a lot of respect for the Ashtanga Vinyasa system. That's the style of yoga that I teach. I love the practice. I think it's brilliant and very well designed. But I've never had a heart connection with the guru Pattabhi Jois or his grandson Sharat. So I like to figure it out on my own.
Yeah. And so soon after that, you moved to London. Was it soon after that? Or I don't know.
No, several years later.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Several years later. A lot happened in between there, but I developed as an Ashtanga teacher and continued to develop my own practice, my own Ashtanga practice and spiritual practice. We can talk about yoga in the broad sense, yes, which is makes more sense to me.
Yeah, well, that was one of my questions, because I think, especially these days with the kind of, I don't know what the word is, celebrity-fied version of yoga, that's not the word, but you know what I mean, where, you know, yoga's in almost every gym, and it then ends up getting merged almost into a form of slow aerobics, and it kind of can become simply just a set of physical movements. And of course, that isn't what yoga ultimately is. I don't know if you want to give a bit of a picture of the broader sense of yoga.
Sure. Well, yoga, I ask this question a lot. I have a podcast, a yoga podcast, and it's one of the questions I like to ask.
It's called The Lonely Guru.
Yeah. And it's one of the questions I like to ask, what does yoga mean to you? Because
it's a good question. Brian, what does yoga mean to you?
Because it's kind of the orienting the factor that all of these teachers are basing their yoga teaching on. And for some people, it's a glorified exercise program, and for other people, it's a path to enlightenment. So for me, it is about my own awakening and the awakening of all yogis and all people, and so that means to me becoming more and more aware of who I really am, and I would also have to include that yoga is about for me being the best person that I can be. So that would include, my body being healthy, realizing the full potential of my body, and my mind, and my relationships, and how I live in the world. So all of that is yoga to me.
Yeah, and I should say we did a previous interview called The Yoga of Relating, where we got into another aspect, let's say, of the kind of broader sense of the practice around yoga and relationships and authenticity and that kind of things. People can look at that if they want to. So let's just, I want to finish a bit more of the chronology of the story, and then we can kind of come back a bit more perhaps into what yoga's kind of meant for your life. So I know in time you came to London and you spent a period where you worked with various well-known people, where you travelled with them. And I don't know if you want to say anything about what that experience was like. I'm not asking you to name names, but just in terms of like the kind of, in a sense, how that affected your experience of the practice and kind of working in that way.
Well, I guess I've learned so much from all of the students that come to my classes, and there are so many different settings that I teach yoga in, one-on-one or group classes or small classes or retreats, teacher trainings, workshops, and every different environment sort of brings forth another side of me that I might not have known was there, and I like to. So you were asking about working with certain individuals
in that kind of more intensive, let's say, kind of one-on-one kind of way.
Yeah, that's great, especially if the student really wants to learn. So you can go deep into the practice. We can take the time that someone really needs to learn. And one of the things that I do as a teacher in the Ashtanga tradition, I do a lot of hands-on adjustments,
Yes.
sort of kind of like body work. And so I get to do a lot of. I enjoy that. I like getting in there and moving the body around. So I get to do a lot of that.
Yes.
One-on-one with people. That's fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the group classes as well. So
Yeah.
for a while I was teaching mainly privately.
Because I also, sorry to interrupt, I remember just in terms of the kind of the flow, let's say, of you and yoga, that wasn't there a thing where someone said, oh, can you cover this again in London? And you ended up working with someone particularly well known. And I can't remember the exact story, but I remember when you told me, it was just like, it just kind of happened. And there seems to be this kind of sequence through you and yoga where someone gives you a studio or someone kind of gives you an opening here, or you turn up and go, oh, this is what I want. There's a kind of a flow somehow through that.
Yeah, that was certainly happening, and I think that was mirroring my own enthusiasm for the practice, and people could see that I was excited about it, and that to a large degree I knew what I was talking about. I was coming from my own experience of it. Yeah.
You were living and breathing it.
Yeah.
I guess in a sense. Yeah. So, what do you see the benefit is in people's lives with yoga? So, when someone new comes to one of your classes and, it's the first time they've practiced, what happens? And I know it's different for everyone, but like, what are some of the key things, the key themes that you see happen in someone's life through a committed practice?
Well, I have come to appreciate more and more what an incredible support a yoga practice is in someone's life. Whether it's daily or a few times a week, but a consistent, regular practice offers, so just to take an hour or an hour and a half or however long it is out of your day and be with yourself, to be with your body, to let the stream of thinking flow and observe it, and then to ultimately, as you practice and exhaust your body and your mind, things tend to settle down. That's the general flow of a yoga session. And it has an incredible effect. I mean, everyone who's taken a yoga class would certainly know that. And to do that over and over again it adds so much to your life. It creates space in your head to know what's going on, to be aware of what's going on in your life. It keeps you physically healthy. It keeps your body in balance, your metabolism. All of those things are really important for healthy living. So I see it as an incredible support
Yes.
for someone's life. And then there are, we can talk about yoga in a broader sense as you sort of contemplate the deeper philosophical ideas that are presented in the practice. So, who are you, and what's the nature of your mind, and those kinds of things have an effect long term as one sort of contemplates that throughout your day, or in meditation, or as it comes up in your yoga practice. And I think, for me at least, that it has brought happiness and joy to my life.
Yes. I mean, one of the things that I've noticed is my meditation practice is much more effective when I practice yoga.
Yeah.
Because I'm more in my body.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I'm meditating and I've not got a yoga practice or some kind of conscious exercise program, let's say, that's going on, it's like I sit to practice my meditation, but I can't get it down and kind of get my mind into my body, let's say.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, for people that are watching this, perhaps, that have a sincere interest in spirituality and in meditation, and on a kind of on a path, let's say, but don't do the physical element. And I know that the kind of integral approach is something that I know we share an interest in. But could you say something about why the physical piece of the practice is so important for somebody that perhaps isn't really so engaged in that side?
Well, there seems to be there is a connection, brain and mind and body, but there seems to be something about exercise that releases all sorts of hormones and balances your system in many ways, and I think that's important for meditation. For me, there are lots of different meditation techniques, but I've always gravitated towards an embodied kind of style of meditation. So it helps me to feel my body, and the simplicity of being with your body. Not often higher dimensions of existence, just right here, right now, in my body, muscles, bones, blood, and moving around helps you connect to that. Yeah.
And what about somebody that's watching it that has a kind of reluctance around being in a yoga class, let's say? It's like perhaps they're worried it's going to be full of, or maybe they're hoping it's going to be full of young women in leotards that are amazingly flexible. And I think that there can be a block, both for men and for women, of kind of, am I going to look stupid? Am I going to be able to do this? I haven't moved my body in that way in 20 years. I mean, what would you say to someone that's got that kind of reluctance or resistance?
Well, I think that most people who are, you'll find when you're in the yoga class that you're, depending on what style, but you are thrust into yourself. There is if you're doing it properly, you have to be with your own body and your own breath and be in the practice. So there isn't a lot of room for looking around and judging, but it happens. It is part of being a human being. We're curious about other people and we're judging all the time. So I can't say that that doesn't go on in the yoga class, and yoga's become quite popular now, so the people are well dressed, and
I'm not in yoga, but
yeah.
others are, yes.
Yeah. So that is an important part of yoga practice for people.
For some people.
For some people. And I would say just go for it anyway. It's worth it to be there and to have the experience. So and get over it.
Yeah. I think also, one of the benefits, I think we're hoping with the show we're developing for Youth Conscious too, is it's also a way perhaps for people to start to do things from home and to kind of, either for those that don't live in a city like London where there's just yoga classes everywhere and there's a kind of almost competition between great different yoga centers offering different things, that someone or somebody who lives in a city that feels intimidated at the idea of going to a class, that they can start a practice, by themselves from home, in a sense. Say a little bit about, what your vision might be. I know it's something that's still kind of in development, let's say, but what your vision might be for someone, watching the videos we're producing, and what you'd hope they might be able to get from that. Yeah.
There's one thing, just to go back to a question that you said earlier, that I think that just moving your body in a minimal way, these just basic practices that we're going to do in these clips, is an incredible complement to a meditation practice or a spiritual practice. So it doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be very, very simple. And I'm going to show some basic sequences that people can do at home easily.
Yeah.
Because
I think, I'm glad you said that, because one of the things that's also, I think really important about kind of what we're looking to do is, there are some great yoga stuff on Instagram and on YouTube and Facebook and that kind of thing, of incredibly accomplished yogis doing amazing postures and sequences, which are on one level inspiring and on another level perhaps a little daunting. And I think what we're looking to do here is create content that people really can do, and it feels accessible, rather than kind of watching you hang from the ceiling with your legs around your ears going, isn't Ryan amazing, but I could never do that. Yeah.
As I get older, and as I teach as my teaching career advances, I'm more and more interested in creating a space for everyone to do something on a daily basis, even if it's 5 minutes. But a very simple program, and figuring out a program that anyone can do or everyone can do on a daily basis, because I feel it's such an incredible support for someone's life. So I'm looking to develop a 10-minute sequence, a 15-minute sequence, 20-minute, small amounts. And if someone wants to continue and go for the whole, 3-hour yoga session, that's there too. There's plenty of that out there. And I'd like to be able to meet people where they are.
Yeah, again, I really appreciate you saying that. One of the things for me in the whole kind of concept of conscious too, in a sense, of having awakening within daily life, was kind of looking at what was out there and going, what I want doesn't exist, in terms of the kind of interviews that we're doing, but also in terms of other things. And as you know, one of my challenges over the last 3 years having kids is getting the time to go to an 1.5-hour class with the traveling either way. And I love the idea of there being 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes that something I can do in my office, or I can do, when I get home from work and I'm tired, I don't want to go out, but like I would do a 20-minute sequence, but I wouldn't spend 2.5 hours going to and from a class.
Yeah.
So it feels like something that would be of great value. We've got a minute or two left. I don't know if you want to say anything about what yoga means to you at this point in your life. It's you're nearly 40. You are 40. I can't have to say, but it's like 20 years. Let's say it's 20 years.
I'll be 40 in a month.
All right, got it. So it's 20 years, pretty much, since you started yoga. And obviously, I know that you've been on a real. Your life has transformed in immeasurable ways over that time. But I don't know if you want to say anything about what yoga means to you now. We kind of answered what yoga means to you more broadly, but like at this point in your life, what does it mean to you to have a yoga practice?
Well, more and more deepening of this awakening, my own living, being in the world, being the best person that I can be, and in every way possible. So that continues to be my yoga practice, and that includes my Ashtanga Vinyasa practice, my Hatha Yoga practice, and many other practices that I engage in and think about, and yeah. So that just the deepening of that process. Yeah, that's yoga to me.
Sounds good. Great. Well, thank you, Ryan. And people want to go to your website. It's trueryan.com.
Yep.
Is that right? Yeah. And as we say, Ryan will be gradually we're putting out more and more clips from the show that we're developing, or Ryan's developing here with Conscious 2. But for now, thank you for watching, and look forward to talking to you again, hopefully very soon. Bye-bye.